Hello, guys! Hope you're doing well. I'm Melanie. If you enjoy a good Reddit story, feel free to hit that subscribe button. I won't stop you. Right then, let's crack on with our first story of the day. The first story comes from AgileSun9321 in the Am I the A-Hole subreddit, and it says, Am I the a-hole for selling my sister's dream wedding dress? I, a 33-year-old female, have supported my older sister financially for years. To date, I've spent approximately $25,000 helping her with bills and her children. She's lived with me rent-free multiple times, and I currently pay the insurance on the car she drives, which is in my name. It feels awful bringing it all up because I've never asked for or wanted repayment. I just wanted to help my family, but it feels like context for how much I've put into being a good sister. In 2021, she was getting married and asked me to be her maid of honor. I went all out. I paid for her Nashville bachelorette trip for her and the bridal party. I also paid for her dream wedding dress, veil, and storage bag because my parents, who were supposed to split it, hit a financial rough patch. The wedding never happened. The dress sat in my closet for 4 years. When my sister moved out of my house most recently, she didn't even take it with her. She never asked about it. Recently, I had a change of financial circumstances. I had to leave my home and my marriage overnight due to domestic violence. I had no time to plan and no safety net. It's been pretty bad. I've run out of gas on the side of the road and gone days without eating to save money. My parents are dead, and the rest of my family usually counts on me and can't help me, so I haven't even asked. I've just been selling everything I own to survive. My sister is aware of my leaving and my financial state since I told her I might not make the car insurance payment. I realize the dress is currently having a moment and retailing for twice what I originally paid. To me, it felt like a miracle, an investment I didn't know I had. I posted it for sale in a couple of places online, like Marketplace and Poshmark, to try and sell it for some emergency cash. This was in an attempt to generate some emergency funds. When I posted it to TikTok, my sister commented, "Well, this sucks. I wanted to give it to her daughter when she grows up." Her daughter is 3, and the wedding would have been to her father, who my sister is no longer with. Now I feel like I was justified in selling the dress. I paid for it, I've stored it for 4 years, and she never asked about it. My family knows I'm struggling, but maybe they don't know the extent. To be fair, they also haven't actually bothered to ask. From her perspective, I'm selling her dream dress and her daughter's future heirloom. From my perspective, I am literally trying to survive, and I'm the one who paid for the dress in the first place. Am I the a-hole for selling it without asking her first? Especially for all the help, support, and validation that has helped me realize some things. I especially want to thank everyone who reached out with resources for work, food banks, and victim assistance. It means more than I can say. I also wanted to let everyone know that I'm currently in therapy, I'm in a safe place, and I am doing everything I can to start over. To answer some questions, first, a funny one. A few people said I was a ChatGPT bot. I'm going to blame that on the generational trauma of an English teacher mother who drilled grammar and sentence structure into my brain. She would be so proud. Second, no, I didn't ask my sister if I could sell the dress. But there's a reason for that. She hadn't answered my calls, texts, or Facebook messages for several weeks before I listed it. I had reached out to her multiple times, even offering her a chance to come say goodbye to my senior dog, who I have to let rest this coming week. I also asked her for information on a job she used to have to see if they were hiring. I have unanswered messages going back 3 weeks before listing the dress. The circumstances of her leaving my house the last time were not dire ones. She had been living rent-free with me, and when our parents died, she stayed in their old house for free until it had to be sold. My parents had a lot of debt, and the house was in foreclosure and had to be sold. At that point, another family member and I actually paid for her to get her own apartment with her kids. She took almost everything she owned, but she left that dress behind in a closet of one of the rooms she stayed in at my house. She also left behind a huge mess, having trashed my house before she left. We had to rent a U-Haul to get all the trash out, and I needed to get professional cleaning solutions for the unsanitary things I found. As I'm writing this, for the first time in my life, I think I'm just angry. I'm finally realizing how much I've done for my family, only to see that not a single one of them even checked on me. They knew I was out of gas and had no money. They knew my husband was abusive. They knew he tried to run me off the road with his car, and that's why I finally fled, and not one of them cared. Thank you all for opening my eyes to the excuses I've been making for people who are frankly just selfish. I promised my parents before they passed that I would always take care of my sister and brothers, and I have tried so hard to keep that promise. But I'm done. I have to take care of myself now. I'm going no contact with my family and healing myself.
Oh my goodness, let me tell you something.
It baffles me how this woman has been the financial backbone for her sister for so long, pouring thousands upon thousands into her well-being, and yet she's the one left out in the cold, literally trying to survive. And the worst part is, her sister didn't even bother to take the dress when she moved out, or even ask about it. I mean, what was she using it for? A glorified closet decoration? It's absolutely absurd to think that this dress, which was paid for by our storyteller and sitting idle for years, suddenly mattered only because it was being sold for survival. What's the excuse here? That it was going to be some sort of relic for a daughter who doesn't even connect with the supposed future heirloom occasion? Seriously? And you know what makes it worse? The entire family is fully aware of her dire situation, and instead of rallying around her, they've opted to turn a blind eye. It's like, are you serious right now? If you're listening to this, you felt that too. It's heartbreaking and shocking, but I'm glad she's finally realizing her worth and taking steps to change her situation. Honestly, if she survives this, she deserves a medal. Drop your thoughts below, because I need to hear if I'm the only one losing it right now over how insane this all is.
Delo Dancer says,
You're not the a-hole, and stop paying her bills when you are barely making ends meet yourself. Have you asked her for help? This will tell you who she really is. Ginger630 says, You're not the a-hole. She never wore the dress. It's not an heirloom. You paid for it and stored it for years. She didn't even take it with her. You need help, and selling the dress will help you. Your family has taken advantage of you for way too long. Stop giving any of them any financial help. Focus on yourself.
Mads MEBC says,
You are not the a-hole, but it concerns me that you say your family knows you are struggling, but not the extent. You should be really perfectly clear. You are so short on cash that you are skipping meals, running out of gas, and fleeing domestic violence. This is literally when you should call your family and lean on them in any and every way you can. I would not spare a second thinking about this dress. You need to be entirely focused on securing your physical and emotional safety. And to that end, good luck. I am cheering you on.
Someone says,
She never wore it, so it's not an especially meaningful heirloom, to be honest. What's immediate is your need for money, and you paid for that dress, so it's yours to sell. I'm sorry you're in this difficult situation and are having to deal with her attitude while you're trying to get your life together. It's also kind of sad that after all you've done to support her, she has an entitled attitude about a dress she never used, and thinks it should gather dust for 20 years for a child who will probably prefer to choose her own dream when the time comes, rather than help you now. Good luck, and sell it with a clear conscience. You're not the a-hole.
A Reddit user says,
So no, you're not the asshole, but please stop paying for your sister and everyone else and set some boundaries. My mom has been letting her youngest sister walk all over her for decades. That woman is married and refuses to live with her husband in our home country, so she just stays at my parents' house, rent-free. She doesn't cook, clean, or do anything but help herself. She makes my mom, who is a cancer patient no less, drive her all around town, buy her everything, and pay for whatever she wants. Please don't be like my mom. People like your sister and my aunt don't care about their loved ones, just about themselves.
Someone says,
You are not the a-hole. It's your dress. You paid for it. It was never your sister's. And why were you being such an enabler all this time? It should now be clear to you that none of your generosity, whether it be with money or time, will ever be reciprocated. Your sister is a taker. The phrase, but family, is a foolish reason to tolerate bullying or abuse. Put yourself first for the foreseeable future. Stop being a doormat for takers. You need to look after yourself. That dress was never hers to give to her daughter, and you were completely right to sell it. Don't give her a single dime either. Use that money to get back on your own feet. And please, original poster, take a giant step back from your ungrateful loser sister. Stop letting her mooch off of you.
Someone says,
You're not the a-hole. Girl, you are so much closer to sainthood than to being an a-hole. It kind of sounds like your siblings are flirting with being a-holes and probably, most definitely, already are a-holes. My guess is you are there for everyone, and things have probably been this way for a long time. Now that you're struggling and in one of the worst ways possible, nobody is there to repay your kindness? You should be livid. I know I'm livid for you. These people, who should be bending over backwards to help you, should be ashamed of what terrible people they are. I really hope reading some of these posts gives you the confidence to stand up and ask or demand the support you need. Your mooching sister should be selling everything but the clothes on hers and her kids' backs to help you. I don't know what their job situation is, but she needs to be getting a side hustle at minimum to help you out. It's pretty obvious they're not going to help on their own, so demand it, as kindly as possible without being a pushover. I only say kindly because I think you will struggle to get their help, but they owe that to you and so much more. Good luck. The next story comes from Independent Web 5498 in the Am I the Asshole subreddit, and it says, "Am I the a-hole for telling my sister not to come to my wedding if she kept bringing up her miscarriage?"
3 years ago, my younger sister Jen had a miscarriage at 9 weeks. She and her partner Scott were devastated. I was there for them as much as I could be, but it was a tough time for them. A few months later, Scott left Jen. Jen said it was because of the miscarriage. She and Scott had a close-knit group of friends, and I found it odd that no one had checked on her, so I rang her best friend to suggest a girls' night. Her friend told me the reason they had broken up. Jen had slept with someone else. When he confronted her, she blamed the miscarriage. 9 months ago, I got engaged and asked Jen to be my maid of honor. At our engagement party, Jen became inconsolable at seeing our friend's baby. Everyone's focus, including mine, was on Jen all night. I wasn't upset with her. I figured that she was imagining what all these big family events would be like with a baby, so I gave her grace. Since then, anything to do with the wedding, she brings up her miscarriage, but only at events related to my wedding. I asked her to help me pick flowers, and she lost it when she saw baby blue roses. She's convinced she was having a boy, and we had to leave. When we went wedding dress shopping, she picked out a maternity bridesmaid dress and asked to try it on so that she could see how she would have looked. When she did that, I thought, she's actually lost it, and had to walk away when she started stuffing a cushion up her dress. I have tried to talk to her about going to counseling again, but she is insisting this is a normal part of the grieving process. She planned my hen party, which I was so grateful for, but I found out after she'd sent everyone a list of rules, which included no talking about pregnancy or kids, no wearing baby blue, etc. I confronted her, but I was gentle about it. I suggested counseling again and said I was there for her, but also that if she wanted to impose any other rules on anything to do with my wedding, she had to come to me first. It all came to a head when one of my friends and bridesmaids announced she was pregnant. She will be 7 months at the wedding. After the announcement, Jen called her and said it would be best if she didn't come because she couldn't maintain her peace if she was forced to be reminded of the loss of her child. I lost it when I found out and said she was using her miscarriage to get attention, and if she made one more demand or made a single comment about it at anything wedding related, she was uninvited, and in either case, she is no longer my maid of honor. Since then, Jen has told everyone I've dumped her from the wedding for being too upset about the loss of her baby. In retaliation, I have told everyone and anyone who will listen the real reason she and Scott broke up. Half our friends and family think I'm an asshole, and half think she is. I'm still horrifically angry and stuck in a place where I'm not sure if I'm rightly angry or if I should be more understanding. Am I the a-hole? Edit. A couple of people have said I went too far telling people about the reasons why she broke up with Scott. And I can take that, but just for context, I had multiple people reach out to me who she had spoken to first. Each essentially said I was being a bitch for dumping her from the wedding for having a miscarriage, and said something along the lines of, she's lost her partner and her sister because she lost her baby. I felt I needed to correct them that she actually lost neither of us because of the miscarriage. She lost us because of her actions since, and her blaming the miscarriage is part of a pattern of behavior. I didn't go into details. I just said, actually, she lost Scott because she cheated on him, and she lost me because she uninvited one of my bridesmaids without my knowing because she is pregnant. I was upset and hurt that they were saying this to me, and also that she wanted everyone to think I was the sort of person who would dump my sister because she lost a baby. So I lashed out by telling them what actually happened with Scott. I suppose as a way to defend myself. But again, if the consensus is that this was too far, I'll accept that and take it on the chin. Edit 2. Thanks for the feedback, everyone. Someone mentioned the phrase weaponized grief, and seeing that written down, that's what it feels like. She clearly didn't deal with her grief at the time she had the miscarriage, but I'm surprised that it's presented itself now in the way that it has. Part of me wonders if she is seeing me get married and thinking it should have been her and Scott. Perhaps her feelings of guilt over what she did and not dealing with her grief have caused her to have some form of mental break?
I'm not sure, but I'm glad to see the consensus seems to be I was right to set the boundaries I did. This gives me some measure of peace as we get closer to the wedding. Although, if it comes to it and she is not there, I will still be absolutely devastated. A Reddit user says, I'm going to get downvoted to hell for this, but honestly, forget it. She had a miscarriage at 9 weeks pregnant, 3 years ago. And yes, a miscarriage is awful. I'm not saying it's not something to grieve, because it is. You grieve the idea of what could have been, what you hoped for, and the embryo that wasn't viable. But it's vastly, vastly different from losing a child you were able to hold or had to give birth to and having a stillborn. And I will not hear anything about it. This is simply true, and trying to compare these two losses as the same is rage baiting. At 9 weeks, this is still a loss, yes, but it's incredibly common. 1 out of 10 pregnancies end in a miscarriage before 12 weeks. It's usually because your body sensed there was something wrong with the tissue and rejected it, because that would never be a viable baby. She is now, after 3 years, still holding this as a pity hostage over people's heads. Even those who are currently pregnant, by the way, telling them not to talk about babies at the wedding while she is pregnant. She's holding it over those who might be struggling with infertility issues and her sister who is getting married. Who said she was the only person who ever miscarried in that friends group? She's also using a miscarriage of 3 years ago as the reason for cheating on her spouse, which is gross. Almost sounds like she loves the negative attention and is milking this for all it's worth, which is bonkers. This is my unpopular opinion for the year. Let the "you don't get to tell people how to grieve or for how long" commence. People, start. Oh my goodness, where do we even begin with this tangled web of emotional chaos? I mean, we have here a sister who's navigating the treacherous waters of grief, using it like a wrecking ball at a wedding, and the audacity of it all, turning joyous wedding plans into a traumatic display, it just baffles me. And then, come on, the bit with the baby blue roses and the maternity bridesmaid dress, just, what the hell? Does she honestly think this is the plot of a rom-com, where unresolved grief plays out to a sweeping score? No, because we're in the realm of reality here, and she's practically commandeered someone else's big day with past drama. And you know what makes it worse? Weaponized grief. Seriously. There's dealing with loss, and then there's using it as a sledgehammer to smash through boundaries. Look, I'm all for understanding and support, but bloody hell, there's a line. And motives aside, it's about boundaries. People can't just trample over them under the guise of catharsis. She's taking the cake, and she's not even the bride. And turning the tables back on you, the storyteller, by revealing her secrets? Bit harsh there, but then again, when she's telling everyone you're heartless, I get it. We're in this blame game circus now. If you weren't already seeing stars, right? But, there's a lesson amidst this emotional explosion. Set your boundaries. Because if she continues at this pace, God knows who else she'll cut out of your life. I hope, for the family's sake, it doesn't come to that, and she finds the help she needs. Sharing this chaos with all of you makes me wonder, do you all see this drama bomb, or am I just venting into the void? Let's keep this conversation rolling in the comments about how much one can truly forgive before one's special day becomes a tragedy play, right? Our last story comes from Zach Alinsky in the Am I the A-hole subreddit, and it says, am I the a-hole for no longer sending my dad money out of my paychecks because I found out he moved a woman and her kids in with him? I, a 20-year-old male, have been sending my dad money since I moved out a couple of years ago. To be even more honest, I was taking care of my dad and not the other way around. He spends all day watching TV and he's on disability, which is how we afforded things when I was growing up, but things were tight. We didn't have a lot, and I got good at finding ways to make food and money stretch for us. Even though I never made a ton of money, I did want to help my dad out, so I would give him some money bi-weekly when I could, which was most of the time, and I helped him get groceries and stuff. In August, my dad was around less, and I thought he was maybe finally getting out a little. Then in October, I found out he was dating someone, and he moved her and her kids in, and they were all expecting me to send money and were all using it. I told my dad I knew, and he told me he didn't see why it was such a big deal. I told him I was taking care of him, my dad, not some strangers. He told me they're not strangers, and one day they will be my family. I told him I'm not supporting all of these people. He asked if I'd leave him struggling worse than before, and I told him that wasn't my problem. I said I took care of him because I loved him, but it was time he learned to stand on his own 2 feet. I asked if he even cared whether I was doing okay or not, because expecting me to support someone else's family at 20 was insane. I told him there was going to be no more money. He won't stop asking for it and asking why I want to punish him for finding some happiness. I even got some text from someone I assume is his girlfriend, where she called me a bad son and family member. She took offense to my attitude about my dad finding love and being a good dad to more kids. I blocked that number because I didn't want to deal with it. The last time my dad called me, he wanted to figure out a way for me to send money again. His girlfriend was yelling that she wanted to talk to me, but I made it clear I was hanging up if she took over. I told him there were 2 adults now, and they could figure it out because I'm done. My dad said I was abandoning him, and it hurt because he wanted me to be happy for him and help him like the good son I have always been. Am I the a-hole? A Reddit user says, "You're not the a-hole. They need to grow up, especially his girlfriend. How was she surviving before she met your dad? Save that money because when she drains him out, you will have to keep him afloat." OP responds, "I wondered about that too. I know my dad relied heavily on me, but I asked myself what she did. That's not my problem though. And if that no longer works because she's with my dad, she should put her kids first and go back to providing for them." Someone says, "How old is your father? Where did he meet this woman and her kids?" If you know that, it sounds like he's being used, not the a-hole. You're 20, so unless you have a fantastic salary, you shouldn't be expected to support your dad and a stranger. OP responds, "My dad is 44, and I don't know how or where he met her." Oh my, this is really sad. I genuinely can't even fathom it. And let me tell you something, family dynamics like these can really hit a nerve. We've all seen them, heard of them, maybe even lived them, right? But it doesn't stop there, no. Because the thing is, when family members expect us to sacrifice our own well-being for their convenience, it's literally outrageous. And you know what makes it worse? They call it love and support. What the hell? Oh, and speaking of disasters, this just takes the cake. Anyway, if you're listening to this vid, I'm sure you're feeling that emotional ride as intensely as I am. So go on, drop your thoughts below. Whose side are you on? And while you're here, why not check out more stories? I can guarantee you'll find even more fascinating chaos. Trust me, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any mind-boggling updates. Until next time, keep questioning those odd choices and take care.